Vaheguru Ji Ka Khalsa, Vaheguru Ji Ki Fateh. My name is Suhavi Kaur, and I will be your host today on Sikh Channel's special episode on International Women's Day. This day is celebrated across the world to highlight all the accomplishments and, more importantly, to reflect on what more needs to be done to ensure that women in all walks of life get access to equal rights and opportunities as men. To bring the conversation more closer to home and focus on Sikh community, I'm joined here today by three absolutely fierce Sikh women who are moving the needle in their own way. Ranbir Panji, Manveet Panji, Rosie Panji, thank you so much for taking out the time and for being with us today. So the show today is going to follow the format of a panel. We have a bunch of questions, some a little more general and some more specific and personal that we're going to ask all our panelists to get their thoughts and take on where we are today in the Sikh community when it comes to women's rights and what more needs to be done for us to move in the direction that we need to move in. But before we get started, let's get an introduction from our panelists and get to know a little bit more about them. So, Ranbir Panji, if you could start with a little bit about your background and who you are and what you do.
Absolutely. Vaheguru Ji Ka
Khalsa, Vaheguru Ji Ki Fateh.
So by profession, I'm a certified management accountant. I get to use these skills with Ford Motor Company in various finance roles and responsibilities. On a personal level, I am a mother of proud 2 young daughters, and these young girls remind me and inspire me of what I need to do so that I create an environment for them whereby they are able to keep the Sikh values close to their heart.
Absolutely.
And so between those two, I think that keeps me busy enough.
Yeah, that's a lot on your hands right there. Absolutely. Thank you so much. Manveet Panji, Vaheguru Ji Ka Khalsa, Vaheguru Ji Ki Fateh.
Vaheguru Ji Ki Fateh. I'm from Amritsar. It's been just 4 years in Canada now. I am working as an assistant manager in business operations at Enterprise Holdings.
Wow.
It's been fun till now, and I'm very happy to join you all today here.
It's a pleasure. Thank you so much. Rosie Panji, Vaheguru Ji Ka Khalsa, Vaheguru Ji Ki Fateh.
I own and operate a learning center in Caledon, Ontario. It's a home-based Montessori program. Mm-hmm. I've been doing it for about 6 years now, and my passion for children is something that just keeps growing. So with Vaheguru's Kirpa, it's just something that I enjoy doing.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. And as we can see that, all of us here are, balancing our professional lives and our personal lives, all while holding and representing the Sikh faith, which is very close to our hearts. So with that, I want to start off with the first question. So we're going to start with you, Ranbir Panji. Just very simply, what are some of the first thoughts that come to you when you hear the word International Women's Day?
I think just in the word itself, when we think of to break that down, so international means that this is a day that is sort of recognized, is recognized globally. And in terms of the work that is done to bring the recognition and the achievements that women have done, it's come very far. Mm-hmm. And as you noted in your beginning, that it's a day that we celebrate. Mm-hmm. We celebrate the accomplishments and achievements, not just for women, but for young girls as well, of what they've achieved. But we also get an opportunity to have a platform to raise our voices and to sort of, because we know everyone is listening, because we know this is a day from both in schools, in your professional environments, it is remembered. Mm-hmm. And for example, at my work, we celebrate International Women's Day. We bring that message close to home where we spend so much time. But just taking a step further, even within the Sikh community now, with the in terms of our presence in social media, we see that various groups and individuals are taking time out to write about that, to tie that back to our Sikh history and what that means. Yeah. So I look forward to that day, because that is a day where we can have a dialogue, and we almost expected to have a dialogue to speak about it. So I look forward to that.
Absolutely. Thank you.
I guess I so much agree with your answer that it's a day because we are celebrating women, right? And this wasn't happening 10 years before. It's happening now, so it's a big achievement for women that we are being recognized after all those years of struggle. The previous women, we literally owe a lot to them.
Absolutely.
I guess. So it's a great achievement. We are celebrating this. But as moving forward, I guess when we celebrate Women's Day, we do talk about issues women are having or their empowerment issues and everything, right? But moving further, what I would want is that when we celebrate International Women's Day, we are just celebrating achievements, just celebrating their success or for who they are, not talking about issues or whatever they're going through.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
let's hope that for the coming years.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's a great vision for us to have that, there would be a time where, most of the work or the majority of the work is done. And, women across the world, no matter what background they come from, they're taken care of. And, we make sure that they have the same, rights and opportunities that men and, access to other facilities that women require. So absolutely. Absolutely. I agree with that. Rosie, Benji?
When I look at International Women's Day, like, yes, honoring women and their achievements, but for me, I hope that we could have an everyday honoring women, right? So when we look at the achievements that we all have carried on in our lives, it is a day to voice our opinions and to voice our struggles as women in the community. But I'm hoping for something different. I'm hoping for an everyday where we do honor women every day, having a specific day just to celebrate that. Yes, it gives us a day to honor and achieve the achievements that they've made. But I personally feel like every day we should be honoring women for everything that they've been doing, right? So.
And how would you, to get your thoughts on it, what do you think are some ways for us to, realistically achieve that? I think you're absolutely right. It shouldn't be an annual event. We all have, women in our lives that mean a lot to us, that we love and adore and have played a big role in who we are today. So what do you think are some of the ways that we can incorporate, celebrating them every day?
I think it starts at home. I think, the little young girls that are at home, the mothers especially, they're the main gurus for these children, right? So, Sikya Deniya, right? Like getting out in the world and making sure that they're strong leaders every day, right? Waking up in the morning and saying, talking about the history of our Sikh women, what they've gone through, the struggles, and the teachings, like engraving that every day. So when they go to school, they are those strong young women that go to school without fear, right? So every day we should have that, like conquering it, and having that power within us, right? So.
No, absolutely. Thank you for your thoughts there. I think we all briefly mentioned our community in all our answers. So I think, even when we think of International Women's Day, we look at it from the perspective of Sikhi, from the perspective of our personal experiences, what we've seen growing up and around us. So to bring the conversation a little more closer to home, we all know that, Sikhism is definitely one of the religions that's known for equality. It's brought up again and again in Guru Granth Sahib that equal rights for men and women, if not the role that women play in bringing life and supporting and encouraging that, absolutely. So but I would like to get your thoughts on where do you think our community stands compared to the vision that our gurus had for us. Do you think we're there? And if you think that we're not there, what do you think are some barriers or challenges that are keeping us from the equality that our gurus encouraged and imagined for our community? So I'd like to start with Manmeet Benji this time around to get some of your thoughts on it.
Sure. So definitely whatever our Guru Maharaj advocated for equality is not getting followed right now. By what that I mean is for even our dressing, we have a bana that a boy can wear and a girl can wear. Then there's no seva that a girl cannot do or a boy can do. We both can do every sort of seva. We can make langar, we can serve langar. Everybody, all genders, right?
Absolutely.
Then we sit together. We read the same bani. We
Absolutely.
go to the same gurdwara. We can go together, either male or female.
Yeah.
So he incorporated this equality like into the basics of what a Sikh should be. But the biggest challenge that I think our community Sikhs are facing at this moment is they're just walking blindly into a crowd. So instead of having Guru Maharaj in their heads at the moment, we are just following whatever's in front, whatever everyone's doing. We just want to follow that by closing our eyes, like sheep, right? We just walk. So this is trending. We are gonna do this. So we don't want to stand out anymore as a Sikh. We just want to belong and fit.
Blend in.
So we should be blending into our own values that were inculcated by Guru Maharaj. Because by blending into a community of Sikhs together, we actually stand out, right? We having the stars on our head, we having facial hair, everything, right? I guess we just... that's the biggest barrier that we could not actually move on from, was that we have become a sheep and we are not following what Guru Maharaj said. We are just following the trends of the West.
Yeah.
That's
And
what I feel.
Jada Sarda, our Guru's vision for us was to not be sheep, but to be,
To stand out.
Yeah, to be...
It was like Panth Nirala hona chahiye.
Bilkul.
We are not Nirala anymore. We are just like others.
Bilkul. And we're, Sarde ko kinna kamal da like asset hega. We have all the knowledge that we need, but we're still following the trends, the media, what people around us are saying. So, would you say that religion and community are, there's an overlap in, community in terms of like the culture is winning over religion? Is that something that you would agree with?
Well, I guess with Sikhi, I do not even consider it as a separate religion. With Sikhi, it's more like a way of life, I guess. So if you're living in a community and you're living like a Sikh, nothing's getting overlapped because your way of life is Sikhi living in a specific community.
Yeah.
So nothing gets overlapped. It's just your way of living.
Yeah, I think that's a beautiful thought, because it's not religion it's not no longer like a weekend going to a place and practicing. It's every day. You wake up and you believe in something, and you go to bed and believing that. Absolutely. Thank you so much for your thoughts there. Rosie Benji, how about you?
Just what Benji had stated. I think we do follow social media or the media a lot. An example, young girls nowadays want to be a certain way. They want to dress up a certain way. And it's the same idea of, do we have women at the front lines in our community? Is it a traditional or a cultural stigma that a woman stays in the kitchen, right? Or can a woman actually do the seva that a male can at the gurdwaras, right? Like my biggest dilemma right now is within our Sikh community as well as in the gurdwara systems, right? As young females, we do need to get out and voice our opinions on women being able to do seva, right? And being able to support each other to do the seva. I think it's very important. I think just like our gurus have said in Gurbani that, if Guru Nanak Dev Ji left us a message that, all women and men are equal. We read the same Barna, we eat the same way, we bleed the same way. There should be no difference, right? And the biggest thing is that we all have Vaheguru inside of us, right? So we should be looking at each other as the same, right? So.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Absolutely. And Benji, how about you?
So this year, as most of you know, the theme for International Women's Day is Each for Equality. And it's just interesting to think about that this will be the hashtag or word or phrase that will be used globally, but it is the core of Sikhi, where Guru Nanak Dev Ji started the first women, Bibi Nanki. So it's just interesting to put perspective into the visions and thoughts and ideas that the mainstream is sharing, as again goes back to our rooted.
Absolutely.
And just to elaborate on that, it speaks to that the idea of collectivism, individualism, being that if we all individually work together and we can achieve that collective vision. I'm a core, something that holds true to me is that if you want to see the change, you have to be that change. We can't we recognize there is gaps of what our Guru Sahib wanted and where we are. I love that we have a dialogues, but it comes to the moment that we step back from the dialogues. As women, we become the strength for one another, and we walk and start marching. And the numbers will come, the voice will get heard. International Women's Day had its own journey for United Nations to recognize it. It didn't get there. But those women 100 years ago, when they started that, they became the voice. And it's become so loud and clear today that even within the Sikh community, we speak about that day, we celebrated it.
Yeah.
So I think what I would say for my sisters, and this is a message I give to my 2 young girls, is if you see that something is not the way it's supposed to be of how our gurus said, let me ask you, what is stopping you? If you don't have the tools, which I believe the tools should be, educate yourself with Gurbani. What is Guru's message? Not hearsay from someone else, but go to the source. If you're armed with the tools and you can articulate your message, eventually that barrier will fall. It might not be at our time, but it might be for when I have grandchildren or great-grandchildren. But we got to get up and do that.
Absolutely.
And I think, we could go back to where that vision was.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And I think, you kind of actually, the conversation flowed right into the next question, which was going to be, we all agree that we're not there. We all agree that there's a lot more work to be done. And, my next question exactly was, what it is that we can do on a day-to-day so that we don't have to wait for annual celebrations to move the needle little by little, just in our own lives. And I think you expressed that beautifully, is that if you see something that's not right, if you see something that needs to change, act on it. And if you think that you don't have the tools to do so, we always have Gurbani to lean back on. Absolutely. So I would also like to get thoughts from Manmeet Benji and Rosie Benji on things that maybe you do on your personal lives, or any battles that you are currently fighting that you would like to highlight and share with everyone on how we can move the needle in the direction that we want to go in on an everyday basis.
So I think the biggest thing is starting at our gurdwaras. And the reason why I say it is because, yes, as Benji said, if you want something to happen, you just go do it.
Yeah.
So recently, my biggest challenge to some of the gurdwaras here is being able to do Prakash, being able to do Sakhasan. And the Simran program that I do attend on a weekly basis. And I'm very thankful to the brothers that acknowledge the fact that, women and men are the same.
Yeah.
Right? So being able to walk with Guru Maharaj on your head and having your brothers follow you is a huge stepping stone, I think, and that voice for the brothers, especially to support their sister.
Yeah.
To be able to read Hukamnama, to be able to do Kirtan on stage. Growing up, my father, so I've got 2 older brothers that we've done Kirtan our whole life. But my father, it was either the harmonium or the tabla. My dad gave me he said, no, it's going to be the tabla.
Yeah.
So at the age of 2, I've been playing tabla. But as I was growing up, I asked and I questioned my father, why did you put me on the tabla? Why didn't I get to play the harmonium? He goes, that's the problem, right? Anyone can do any saj. It doesn't matter if you are a male or a female. Right? So growing up doing kirtan, there were those odd cases where they would look at my brothers and then I'm sitting on the tabla and they're just like, your sister's going to play? And they're like, yeah, she is, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So it made you feel that, I'm not going to say power. It did make me powerful in the sense where I can do what you do, right?
Exactly.
And now we're able to, play all the harmoniums, all the saj, whatever the brothers can play, we're able to do that as well, right? So I think the biggest thing is our traditional values need to be there, but I think our marching to the source needs to happen as well.
Yeah. Yeah, no, absolutely. And I think we'll all agree that's such a beautiful story. And I'm so glad that, you're lucky to have a father like that encouraged you, because let me know if you feel differently. But in all the years that I've, gone to the Gurdwara, I don't think I've ever seen a woman at the tabla and then have men doing kirtan next. I think it's always the other way around. So I think it's great because, you know, it's not just about talking with the next generation, it's also showing them how things can be different, imagining that there's more out there, and it's not just that this is your role when you go to the Gurdwara and then this is all you do, versus men do this and this is what they're able to do.
And you see that happening now, like we teach kirtan classes at Dixie, and you watch the young girls. They're like, Rosie, Benji, we want to learn too, right?
Yeah.
So that makes you feel like, wow, like these young girls get it.
Yeah.
That it doesn't matter कि तुसी harmonium te kirtan karoge. No, you have the ability and the strength to play the tabla as well.
Absolutely.
So to see the young ones, it just makes you feel even more like
Absolutely.
we're getting somewhere.
Yeah.
Right? So
Yeah.
slowly but surely.
Yeah. And it keeps giving you the energy to keep going.
Absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely. Maybe Benji, how about yourself?
I guess they both said it all. Definitely everything what we need to do every day. It's simple. If you want to see the change, you got to be the change, right? So she's being the change. She's playing. I still remember the first day I saw her at a camp playing tabla. I was amazed.
Yeah.
That was the best time I had. Listened to Kirtan, my eyes were closed, and I was just happy that that place is taken by a female today.
Yeah.
That was amazing.
Yeah.
So definitely, if we want to see the change, we got to be the change. So if we are seeing things that are not taking place, we should be the ones moving forward and saying, okay, can I do that? Let me do that. Or I can do that. Right? So just move forward, make the space, create the space so that the ones who are coming next, they already have the space.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I think, you know, so as we've discussed, there's two ways. We either, you know, address something that we see isn't right, and then become an example for other generations. And, you know, I don't mean to put anyone on the spot here, but I think something that we should be addressing is, you know, have you in your personal lives had experiences having those difficult conversations? And those difficult conversations could be with someone who told you that you cannot do this, or it could be with your daughters or your, you know, nieces, when, you know, they were going through a confusing phase and you wanted to bring them kind of back to the Sikhi way of things or the equality way of things. So, you know, it could be either way, but, you know, I think having that difficult, awkward conversation is often what keeps people from having them, and they'd rather just not, and you kind of like brush under the carpet. So what are some of the tools that maybe you've used in the past? What are some of the things that have not worked for you? Any personal experiences that you can share, you know, in that category of, you know, difficult conversations in this space? And, you know, anyone can start. I know I'm putting you on the putting you on the spot, but please.
It just happened recently, actually. That's why. So the place I'm working right now, the whole GTA has, I guess, 10 managers, and out of them only 2 are females.
Oh wow!
It was so hard to get that spot because when you are there, when they're going to choose, they're always looking up to males to get that spot. Reason being, it's a hard job, 7:30 to 6 every day.
Yeah.
You got to clean cars. There are 10 people who are working under you, and then you have to deal with crazy customers coming in and then huge workload. And they just assumed, or that's like engraved in their minds, that, oh, women can't do that. So let's find the boys, okay? Like choose out of them, so that we need managers who can run whole day, manage this thing, right? And that was a hard spot to get like this. So how I incorporated Sikhi in this was, I used to go home every day. I used to do ardas, and then I have this habit of listening to katha while I'm driving home. Pai Sukha Singh ji was doing katha that day, and that's what he said. Bibi Nanki ji, that she was so patient and she had so much bharosa on Guru Pita that everybody's like, Guru Nanak Dev ji chale gaye, Vehi Nadi, she's not back. She was so patient, calm. He's coming back. He is the Guru. He will come back. Patient, calm, full of composure, everything fine, good.
Faith.
Not losing hope, right?
Yeah.
That's what I wanted to be like. I'm not going to lose hope. and I'm gonna crack this job down. I'm gonna get
Absolutely.
that, and then I'll do ardas every day.
Yeah.
That because I can't do everything by myself. I need you by my side.
Yeah, yeah.
So be by my side, and then for 10 days they wanted to watch us do it, and then they had to decide that who's gonna be the manager, and then. Yes, Guru Pita helped, and then yes, I don't know what they look down on me being a woman, that we are incapable, or me wearing good dastar made me a bit different.
Yeah.
There's so many factors to it. So
Yeah.
you have to understand each and every factor they're looking down on you, and then work it out. See your strength in that factor, and then make that bold enough that they don't see your weakness, because there is no weakness.
Absolutely. And you now have the job.
I now have to. I just came back from that.
Oh, congratulations. That's amazing. And I think, it brings two very important aspects together, which is believing in yourself and then believing in your guru. You got to do the work, you got to put in the effort, but then you also have the faith of gurus and what they have planned for us. So absolutely, and congratulations. I think that's marvelous. If Rosie Brandt or me Brandt, do you have any stories to share or insights on difficult conversations?
I think the difficult conversations come up when families, societies, or a professional world try to fit someone into a predefined role, a role that they think it's appropriate. Women can't be, be a president. A woman can't be the president of an automotive company because it's meant for men. But if we again take back to our roots, when Guru Nanak Dev Ji left the house, I'm sure at that time, and we know, he was meant to stay back in a role that's defined at that time to help with his Pitaji stay at home, take care of the business. But Guru Sahib sort of knew his journey was something else.
Yeah.
So to say that we are immune to comments or challenges, I think that makes us who we are. That makes us stronger. Those will exist in every shape and form. But the question becomes to what I ask myself is, which role or which box am I trying to fit in? I've only one role that I was born into, and I'm blessed with that. It's, I'm born as a Sikh, and Guru Sahib told me to do that and fulfill that role to the fullest, whatever that means.
Yeah.
Being respectful of everyone, obviously, and we have certain obligations, responsibilities throughout our lives, but don't let that noise, and I call that a noise, take you away from what you're supposed to be doing here.
Yeah.
So you can have a dialogue, but dialogue can only work well if the person wants to hear. It's not necessarily sometimes I think your role to make them understand, because they have their own journey. You just can't stray away from your journey, what you're supposed to do here. Is sort of my thoughts to it. I remember when a few years ago I started to train to run for a marathon, and my family was looking at me and saying, aren't you a bit too old to be doing this now? Your friends don't run. I'm like, you know what? Maybe I'll inspire them to run. But this is my journey, and they have their journey. I think that's the key. But we are all rooted back into that whole grand scheme of why we're here, but getting close to Guru Sahib.
Absolutely.
Right, and how we get there, we might take different paths, but we need to get there, all of us.
Yeah. And I think that's absolutely right. Recognizing who you're having dialogue with, and what their perspective is, and what's their motivation, and are they just there for the sake of an argument, just because some people just like to have these debates where they just know what their stance is, so they're not debating to learn, but they're debating to fight, and then deciding when it's time to let go, and then just doing what you want to do because you know your path. And I think going back to what Manmeet Panji said, you will only know your path if you know your guru's teachings. You're in tune with what the message that gurus left behind for us, and then just being confident in who you are and what you have to say. And I think confidence is very important as well. I think that's another major issue. It's not something external. I believe it's internal, where after years and years of you can only do this, or this is the box you fit in, or seeing, our moms or dadis and generations before, that there's this predefined role that, you need to fulfill. I think it affects your confidence. Absolutely. And then it just you just start believing that I'm not good at that, and this is not something I can do. And I would love to get your thoughts on this, but I think just even in our professional worlds, when women speak out, they will have a brilliant thought, but they would say, I don't know, I think. Right. And I think these are some of the little things that are very intrinsic, but absolutely need to be addressed because, we do know what we're saying. We do have great ideas and we just need to believe in ourselves. Going back to, Rosie Panji on the previous question before we move on to the next, what are, some of the things that you would have seen in the area of having difficult conversations? Any insights that you can share with our audience?
There is I've always questioned, why can't we do certain things? But going back to Gurbani and what Benji had stated is that, we all have our journey. We all have to fulfill what Guru Maharaj's writings have stated for each and every one of us. Mm-hmm. It's not to say that you're wrong or pointing at anybody. It's just the educational factor needs to be there, right? So an example, I'm starting to kind of reflect on, as females, we go through our cycle every month. Guru Maharaj gave us the body. Guru Maharaj gives us what we need to cleanse every month. But the question that came to my mind was, going on stage to do kirtan, but being told and asked, are you on your cycle? Oh. And if you're on your cycle, we won't allow you to do kirtan. And that was an example. And that was something that kind of hit me to the heart because I didn't do kirtan for about 3 or 4 months after that because it really tore me up. Mm-hmm. Would our gurus actually say that to our daughter? Yeah. If Maharaj was here presently, would he say, Rosie Put, are you on your cycle? Yeah. I'm not going to let you do Harida just today, right? So that experience for me had taken a huge toll on me. And one thing that I decided to do is, no, I'm going to Khoj. Mm-hmm. Did our gurus actually say you can't? Right? Then the Tuks of Banis came, where it does state, right? And then going back and trying to addressing this topic to our older generation. Yeah. Again, it's who wants to hear it, who doesn't want to hear it. Do you sit there and really waste the swas, or do you just kind of Jo Vaheguru karega, doing the ardas, right? And then finally the apologies came, and I wasn't looking for the apology. What I wanted to do was just sing, what Guru Maharaj was, wanting me to do that day. But I stood my ground. I was in strength, and I said, we can't be weak about these things. We just have to educate. And I think that's where we're kind of lacking, that we follow like sheeps. Yeah. And it's always been fixated on that type of transliterated meaning. Ki tusi nahi kar sakte, tusi kar sakte, or what's right, what's wrong, right? Yeah. So I think we do need to move forward and start to educate more. I don't know.
No, absolutely. Absolutely. And you know what? I'm shocked that you had that experience, because I remember from a very young age, when you're in middle school and you're talking to your other friends, and I know for a fact that there are communities or religions out there when, if someone is on their period, they're not supposed to go all the way inside like a temple or a church, and they're just supposed to stay on the outer skirts. And I vividly remember coming home and talking to my mom about this, and going back to school the next day and then being very proud of the fact that this does not apply to our religion, that this is very normal, it's very biological, something given to us, and this doesn't mean that we're supposed to stay back or keep away. It doesn't make us less or dirty in any way. So it's shocking to hear that even though this is in theory it exists, but it's not practically being followed. And it's good that you bounce back after 3 or 4 months. That's amazing, but because that's the effort that you put into it. But
you start feeling that am I really that gandagi? Am I really that you feel that dirt?
Yeah, absolutely.
And again, you do, you lose confidence. But my husband would always say that, when you want to achieve something, just like Benji said earlier, you do have to go and do it, right? So, but it was the hardest thing to actually take in. And
absolutely. Yeah, it can be pretty rough. And like I said, you bounce back because you put in the work, but there could be other, other parents out there that didn't. They just entirely gave up that if my religion makes me dirty because this is who I am, and that's not the truth, that's just, someone telling them that's the case, then, it's very easy. I know in my personal life where, men and women fell off the path, not because of what Sikhi says, but because of those that are in positions of, so-called power said to them and interpreted our religion in the wrong way, and they're just like, if this is religion, then I don't care. But and I think something beautiful that just happened, and it wasn't planned at all, is that all our answers came back to doing our own work, understanding who we are and what our teachings truly are, and then using that as a tool to have very confident discussions whenever and wherever we seem fit to move in the right direction. And I think our conversations are a perfect segue to our next question: is what in your belief is the role of our Virjis, the men in our lives, and other allies in helping us in this battle? What do you think is their responsibility, and how accountable are they in this journey? So I'll bring this back to Rimbi Panji.
I think my thoughts is not just our brothers who are accountable. I apologize if this might not sound very polite, but I think I hold my sisters, my mothers accountable. Again, going back to root, going back to Bibi Nanki, she believed in Guru Sahib. She spoke to her parents and reassured them of all the thoughts and worries they had. And we all know Bibi Nanki is just one and the first example, and there's so many other, great Sikh women in our history that didn't need a brother or a father to tell them or provide a platform or open the door. They did it. The brothers saw that, or the gurus saw that, and they followed. So, I mean, but that is not to take away from the fact that, there are some households, even if a woman wants to do something, she might not have the support. I mean, she stopped from even crossing the path because of, the husband or the brother would not permit that. But again, I think it's, these dialogues have been happening. Is it an overnight fix? I think we all recognize it isn't. But I think the key is just to keep having the dialogues in a respectful manner. And it's not putting my own personal interpretation. It's just saying, this is what my guru is saying.
Absolutely.
Please, have that dialogue. Why aren't you seeing what my guru is seeing or is saying? Right? So then it doesn't become sort of, it becomes a respectful conversation, and a conversation they might want to engage in. If it becomes more so, why are you stopping me, then it becomes at a personal level. So this is just taking it a very small, the close to home level. I think if we just start having the dialogue, this is what our guru is saying. What am I missing that, I don't see what you are seeing. I think we got to keep moving. I think you got to keep moving. You got to keep running, and eventually you will finish the marathon. There'll be aches and pains, but you know what? You will get there. So I think, our brothers, to say that if that needle hasn't moved, I don't think that would be a fair statement. It has. It's not there yet. But you know what? We could become like our gurus. We strive for that. But so I think we just need to support our brothers. So allow them, at least it's starting off by listen to my guru's shabad. If you don't want to listen to me, listen to my guru's shabad. This is what my guru is saying, or our guru is saying. And hopefully that would get the dialogue going. And then they'll, I think it's just a journey. You just have to keep, little pieces at it. The key is not to stop.
And it'll all be worth it at the end.
I think so.
Absolutely. And I think it's difficult to challenge the statement, this is what our guru says. Now tell me your thoughts, and how do you challenge that, right? So
it is being challenged.
Absolutely, but
the repetition is like, but I'm not saying it. My guru is saying it.
Exactly.
Right. I think just the repetition of it. Hopefully, right? They say human psyche, right? You got to repeat things eventually.
Absolutely. Thank you, for sure. Manmeet Benji, how about you?
I'm just gonna share a story which completely relates with what you said. Women empowerment is not just a women's issue. It's not just the men's issue. It's issue as a whole.
Yeah.
Reason being, there's one specific gender you're looking down to. Empowerment can never be add on to development. Empowerment is always core to the development. When I was back home in Amritsar, there used to be a maid who used to come and do the mopping and everything, do the dishes and stuff. So it was a Sunday, and she gets her daughter along, never seen her before. And then my mother questioned, I was inquisitive too, like, oh, your daughter, why is she with you? Like, why is she mopping the floors and you doing the dishes? Like, she's helping you today off from school.
Yeah.
So we knew she had 4 kids, 2 boys, 2 girls. What she says was, I was literally blown away. She said, I have 4 kids, and then because I have less money on me right now, so I chose my both boys to go to the school, and I pulled the girls out because I don't have enough money, and it will be a waste of money anyhow because they're eventually going to get married. They're going to do the same thing. So it's better for them to learn now how to do dishes.
Yeah.
Like her future was decided point blank. That's it. Done. Period. That's all you're going to do. She's never asked what you want to do. She just knows, oh, this is what I'm going to do. Go to house of every person, do the dishes and mopping the floors.
Yeah.
So here, no man was against that girl. Her own mother was. She could have imagined a better future for the girl, being her daughter, that instead of pulling 2 girls out, I can make them study, give them a better life, which I could not have. So it's not just one person or one ally pulling a specific gender down. It's everything so much together, mixed up and messed up, that you cannot even filter who's against and who's in favor, to be honest.
Yeah. And I think sadly this story is very familiar to all of us. You know, it also reminds me, you know, I've personally known several stories where it was a firstborn in the house was a daughter, and then we all know the mother-in-law that wasn't happy. So it's all women. You know, and there's no laddus that are given out if the firstborn's a daughter, because, you know, you had a daughter and not a son. And I think it absolutely circles back to, you know, generations and generations of putting down the fact that this is where you fit in and this is all you are. And I think, and even for myself, I think we consider ourselves very lucky. You know, we've had good education, we come from good backgrounds. But even for myself, it was only when I, you know, engaged in dialogue that I was like, oh yeah, that totally makes sense. How is that possible? And you would think that, you know, if you come from a certain background, you check certain boxes and you think certain way, but that's not true. It's just whatever you see your mom and your dadima and your nanima doing, and you're like, okay, yeah, they've been doing it, so I need to do it, and then this is what I'm going to teach my daughter. So absolutely, I think it's important for women themselves to recognize where they're putting a barrier for themselves. Like, this is my limit, and this is the limit that I'm going to put on my daughters as well, and to recognize that and to address it. Absolutely,
I think we're seeing that now. I think we've kind of woken up a bit. What we want to see in our daughters and the next generation, right? So I feel like women now are trained to believing that it's got to be this way, right? Yeah. But I think we've opened up that, just like Benji's like, oh, full nu asi un like oh beej already hai.
Yeah.
Kisna fulana hai, right? And that's something I think we're all kind of seeing now, right? So.
But would you agree that, you know, it's mostly we're privileged to say that because of the community that we're in, but, you know, in certain parts of the world and even back home in Punjab, there could be households that aren't entirely there?
We're very lucky, you know, and when you look back and you do hear stories, like it does break your heart. You wish you could do more, but the only thing we could do is hoping and praying that the fact that we're actually sitting here talking about it is a big thing in my eyes.
But Benji, just on that comment, when you say we wish we can do more, I think it's wonderful to hear that there are things happening. For example, the mainstream organizations, there's a group called I Am Girl. I'm sure some of you are familiar with it. So, my younger daughter had a lemonade stand for 2 years ago in the summer to collect the money, and that money went to the girls who could not afford education. So when we celebrated our girls' birthdays, we requested for money, so the money would go there. So I think within maybe the Sikh community, we might not have those organizations, but in the mainstream, we have that, where if we can make that change in our own Punjab, in India, but at least we can start in other places where girls, unfortunately, are not as blessed and privileged as we are. But again, it's just, because we are financially stable, we are professionals, we are educated, we've got the confidence, we just need to take it to the next level now, right? Yes, speaking about it at the local gurdwaras is great, but there's already enough work that's being done here. We need to go find in places where we know that we've got the tools, that we can make the change and get the women together. Can you imagine every girl for 1 year decided to use her birthday money to give education for girls in a third world country? That's the change they've made, and it took so little part. So I think we just need to start looking and digging other places to see where we can start making those changes. Right?
Even in Punjab, I think there's a few organizations. I know one specifically that's an orphanage just for little girls, and then they're responsible for them, for their education and food and clothes, everything till they turn 18, and then making sure that they have a career. So absolutely, things are happening. But I think it's very important to recognize like the privilege for us here, and what more needs to happen back home for sure. But going back to the question of our allies and men, as you briefly mentioned, your father played a very important role. So what's your take on our brothers helping us or contributing, or what's their role in women empowerment?
So personally, having two older brothers, it was always a challenge. But if they were playing hockey outside with their friends, they would never say no. They're like, let my sister join in. If there was anything that they wanted to do, they would always engage me into it. Yeah. So I already knew it already started at home with the upbringing of what my father had. It's almost like saying that he put my hands on the tabla for a reason, right? And I am where I am right now because of that sikhya, right? And so brothers, I do see the support personally within my family. If they can play hockey, I can play hockey. If I wanted to be on the basketball team, they would always encourage me to do that. And with Vaiguru's Kirpa, being able to do the seva in the Gurdwara, right? So being able to do Prakash Sukhasan with my brother supporting me is a big thing for me. So
yeah, absolutely. And like you mentioned, it starts at home, and we briefly talked about this as well. It is about your confidence and your learnings, but it's also if you have a man, your father, your husband, your brother in your life telling you this is it, then having that conversation, absolutely. And with that, we've talked about how we can support our daughters and nieces and the next generation coming up. What would you say is your vision or your hope, or in the battles that we're fighting every day, what kind of a life do you imagine for the next generation, our Sikh daughters? What would you say is the kind of world that you imagine for them, if you were to put it in a few sentences? And I'd like to start with Benji.
For me, I'm not even married yet. So but you still have these things in mind. No doubt that if I'll have a daughter, I never want her to struggle with facial hair as I did, never have to struggle in professional career or something. I want them to be as patient and full of bharosa like Bibi Nangi ji.
Yeah.
As kind, as compassionate as Mata Khivi ji, as bold, strong as my Pagoji. I want them to be the prominent Sikh women we have had, because they're the best, and I would say this word, perfect examples of what a woman needs to be and what a woman can be.
Absolutely.
Full potential. So be who you are and be the best of you.
Absolutely.
Be a beautiful Sikh.
That's really well put. Thank you very much.
It's like the Sansapai within each
Yeah.
female.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I don't have children, but when I see the kids that come to my school, and I see the younger 4-year-olds, again the same Sikya, right? So be true to yourself, be who you are, and do the things that any boy can do in the classroom, right? So giving them that role model, that example, to live that life as a Sansapai as well. Right?
Yeah. Absolutely. How about yourself?
As a mother of 2 daughters, as I said earlier, what I wish for them is to be able to have compassion and strength. Sometimes, and again, our Sikhi is just rooted in love. Gurbani, every shabd is rooted in love. Recognizing not just for your own, but just for humanity.
Yeah.
That's very probably a high ideal to wish for someone, but truly, as I say to my younger daughters, I will be okay if you choose not to have the highest professional paid job, or you become, profession like most parents want their children to become doctors or engineers.
Yeah.
She is learning how to play the violin. I go, it would make me so happy if you took your violin and you decided to play at a place where people were sick, they were suffering, and they were healing, and you can heal them through music.
Yeah.
So I said that would truly make me happy. But to do work like that, or what our Guru Sahibs did, or what our great mothers did, you need to have strength. It takes a lot of strength to say, when Mata Gujri ji lost her whole parvar, it takes tremendous strength to accept that this is my Guru's hukam.
Yeah.
I have lost my husband, my son, my grandchildren. So that is not easy to walk on that path. So I can only wish and pray for my daughters that they are able to hold on to those virtues.
Absolutely.
And of course, with the blessings of Guru, then serve the purpose. There's more to just the worldly things we're supposed to do. Those will happen with his blessings, but we are here for a bigger purpose.
Yeah.
And if I can sort of get that for them to believe in that, I think my purpose of the seva that Guru Sahib has blessed me with these 2 souls,
Yeah.
I might have fulfilled at least 1% of that.
Wow.
If I can complete my journey that way.
Yeah,
you know.
yeah. No, that's
Yeah.
beautiful. Absolutely. For sure. And I think from our conversations just now, we do get a lot of our inspiration from Maipa Guji, Mata Gujuji. So I did want to, get your take on what would be, some of the prominent Sikh women through the history that you consider as role models, or who inspire you or stick out to you over the course of time. So Rosie Benji, if I may start with you on this one.
I don't have just one. Like when you look at Sikh history, like our Matawa, there's nothing that it's just their courage, the patience, the humility, and as Benji said, just to have that ounce of to be like them, there's no justice to that, right? And you can only read and read the history to gain that strength, and hoping one day that you can apply that teachings to your nieces, your own children, but they're all like an inspiration. I gauge inspiration every day when I read their Sikyar, their Sakis. So
strength and compassion, and throughout, absolutely. Manoj Benji, how about you?
I guess I'm going to say the same thing. It's hard to choose one single one, but definitely every human being, not just women or men, have a specific prominent virtue in them. Everybody has something specific prominent in them. We all have virtues, something's prominent. So I just read Sundari Ji, that's book written by Veer Singh Ji, and then the way she has been so nimana banke, she did seva for all the Singhs, and she was so adamant ke nahi main Singha naal hi rehna. She was the only girl with a whole group of Singhs fighting wars in the jungle.
Yeah.
She was the only girl, and she is making prashade, doing malampatti, everything. And then saying thode fattar ho gaye, they couldn't fight, and then somebody tried to reach her out. She didn't take a second to, her kirpan was out and she fought like a warrior. Like, this is our culture.
Yeah.
This is where we belong. That's where we need to fit in.
Yeah.
So that we can stand out.
Absolutely.
It's amazing where we belong, so we should belong here.
Yeah, for sure. Our history is just is phenomenal if you go through it. So, and that's a really, really good example that, just whatever role you're playing, play it really, really, really well, keeping our Sikh values in mind. Absolutely. Thank you for that. Ranvi, Branji, how about yourself?
I draw my inspiration, I think, true, there's so many women that, it wouldn't do justice just to pick one, but in our ardas every day, we remember those mothers who stood steadfast and watched their children get sacrificed.
Yes.
As a mother, I can't even fathom what that means.
Yeah.
So that gives me inspiration, and the fact that it's read every day in our ardas just reminds me that, you know what? It has happened in our history, so it's not made up story, and if they can do it, seek the strength from them.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much for that. I think that was it's amazing how we all come from different walks of life, living in the same community, in a similar neighborhood. We're all at different stages in our life, and different careers, different professions, but it's amazing to see how a lot of our answers are in sync, and a lot of our vision aligns, and what needs to be done, it totally matches. So as we come to the conclusion of today's show, if you could quickly, if you wanted our viewers to take one takeaway, what would be some of your concluding thoughts on going back to the topic of International Women's Day, and kind of summarizing, if there was one takeaway you wanted our audience to have, what would that be? And anyone who's ready? Okay.
So, concluding note from my experience would be, know your history more so that you can create a legacy.
Mm-hmm.
By legacy, I mean whichsoever life we touch is our legacy. Every person has his own legacy. So the lives you are touching, you're creating your legacy.
Yeah.
So you can create a better legacy if you have your roots deep down in your history.
Mm-hmm.
Know your history, create a legacy.
Beautiful. Thank you very much. Rosie Branji or Ranvi Branji?
I think I would sum it up by saying to what Rosie earlier started, let's celebrate this day every day, and how we celebrate it is just by remembering what we are supposed to be doing here, and if we ever get weak, draw upon the strength from our history.
Beautiful. Yeah. Absolutely. Thank you.
I think we all have that superpower within us, right? Every single one of us. And I think, again, it draws to the history aspect of it. But I believe firmly that we all have the power to change, right? And to leave that legacy, whatever lives you touch, with Vaiguru's Kirpa, just let it keep flourishing,
Yeah, for sure. Thank you so much. I think this was a great discussion. Know your background, know where you come from, do your own homework, be confident in it, walk your path fearlessly. If we all have highs and lows, we all have days then we're like, we're gonna go get it all, and then we're like, can we really do it? And then those days it's important to draw inspiration from the Matama and men and women who we hear Sakya about, and who've done all the good work, and that is where we come from, that is where we're rooted, and if that can happen, we can try to be just an ounce of it, if not all that. So thank you so much for taking out the time once again, and I think there's some great takeaways for our audience here. The most important one that came up again and again is, let's celebrate women every day. This is not an annual event. See what we are lacking in our own lives. What can we do in our own unique ways? if it's, you know, something as a lemon stand or being being involved in a bigger organization, to give back, to help those that are maybe not as privileged as us, and take these conversations to them, so their horizons are broadened. Thank you very much once again for joining us. This was a great conversation and I really appreciate it. Vaheguru Ji Ka Khalsa, Vaheguru Ji Ki Fateh.